Hello, everybody. It is Saturday, May 2nd, and I just want to say I appreciate everybody that's tuning in, and hopefully I can share a little bit of a current event, historical perspective. This is a little bit more recent historical perspective, but we might get back into history just a little bit. Thank you for joining. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing as well. Cognitive dissonance. The state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. Okay. I've never really thought about that too much. It's a noun psychology uses. Okay. I'm learning a lot over the last 3 months. Things that I never realized I didn't know. I'm going to suggest that we also think about that term, cognitive dissonance, and I'm going to throw something out there. The liberal, the Democrat of the 60s, subscription to Prevention Magazine, 60s and 70s, subscription to Prevention Magazine. I know because I grew up in the house with it. Going to go all organic. We're going to be vegetarians. We're going to put green stuff on our face. I know because I did it. Well, my mom did it mostly. But hey, I was a kid in the 70s. Let's try this. And everything about the environment and everything about, ooh, no, vaccinations are bad. What do you want to put that needle in my kid for? And isn't it eerie if we go back to that cognitive dissonance, that it's those same people that are so readily available to get the flu, sign off on vaccines are not dangerous. They've been debunked that they are dangerous. It's been proven. Science has proven it. So stop looking into it. And it's those same people that say you're crazy if you think anything else. Do we think that Bobby Kennedy Jr. is crazy? Lifelong Democrat? Do we think he's crazy? We're going to come back to that particular thing in another episode at some point. I want to talk right now about coincidences. How often can a coincidence occur when it's then no longer a coincidence? Because when you say, James, that's a conspiracy theory, it's just a coincidence. I've heard a lot. Remdesivir. Remdesivir is Gilead's product. Looks like China, or the CCP, holds the patent. It looks like the lab where the development of it was taking place. Largest donors are George Soros, the Gates Foundation through Gavi, and the WHO. It looks like Fauci directed millions of dollars of the United States taxpayer money to that same lab. All of this could just be a coincidence. It's possible. In early January and even to late February, Fauci was on every show telling people we have nothing to worry about with this virus. The flu, which was a very bad flu, this was running neck and neck with the 2017-2018, which, again, the numbers are never exact, but killed between 65 and 85,000 Americans. Could potentially get to the Hong Kong flu of 69, 100,000 plus Americans. And he was saying the flu is going to kill more. Nothing to worry about here. I think about this because I also think about the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico and the day one of the BP oil spill. British Petroleum contacted the EPA and said, we're going to go down and fix this. We've got a leak. We can fix it. We've got the team. The EPA said, no, don't touch it. Every day they said, we have the technology. We can go down and get it fixed. And I can't remember exactly the date on this because this isn't the reason why I'm talking about it, but it's a similarity. But the facts are, every day BP told the EPA and the DEQ that they could fix that. They were told to stand down. It happened either in March or early April. Late April, early May, Barack Obama had multiple news conferences where it was brought up, and he said, yeah, I'm aware of it. It's under control. It's no big deal. Late May, now all of a sudden we've got millions or billions of crude floating around, sea life damaged, people's livelihoods are damaged. Now it's a big enough crisis that we can now take advantage of this. We're going to fine British Petroleum. We're going to say, look, we just can't have offshore drilling anymore. It's not safe. Had it been stopped the very first day they could have stopped it, it could have never been used as a crisis. So we go back to never let a crisis go to waste. I feel like, as I look back on that from a historical perspective, that the same playbook has been used. The absolute same playbook that Rahm Emanuel, when he first was part of the administration with Obama, was quoted as saying, the ideology of Ronald Reagan, where there needs to be less government, is dead. Government now will provide every aspect of every solution. That was their goal. And you can probably remember the previous president stating that he planned, and his attempts were, he wanted to fundamentally and systematically change this nation. In a lot of ways he did. Not the least of which was executive orders. I do believe it's around 500 or 600 total executive orders that Bill Clinton and George Bush signed, combined. And I do believe that by the time Barack Obama left office, that it was somewhere around 4,000, maybe as much as 5,000 executive orders. Now, somebody would say, well, that's just a coincidence because Congress wouldn't work with him. Didn't read a bill that was 10,000 pages long, just voted on it so that they then could read it and figure out what was in it. The ACA, the largest piece of legislation ever passed, the most wide sweeping too. But back to this coincidence, I think about how Fauci used a similar playbook as the BP oil spill. Nothing to worry about here. No big deal. At the same time, it's just a coincidence possibly that China shut down all flights from Wuhan to any place in China, all travel. But China allowed all travel from Wuhan to the rest of the world. Specifically, if you've not looked into it, the financial district in Italy. Many of these companies that are Italian companies, in order to be Italian companies, have to have the office in Italy. So even though it's been purchased by a Chinese money, they still maintain their office there. And over the last 30 years, they've had a huge influx of Chinese population, who, by the way, were allowed to leave Wuhan and come to Italy. We see what happened there. Oh, nobody said anything about what they had. So, it might just be coincidence. But the fact that they would let all the travel from Wuhan to the rest of the world, but not from Wuhan to any place in China, might just be coincidence. Also, Dr. Fauci gave a speech. It was about that same time that he was saying just as many people are going to die, or more people will die from the flu. Nothing to worry about this virus at this point. But he gave a speech about that same time to one of those large think tank Ivy League groups. There's a tape of it out there. Got a little microphone in front of him. Wearing basically the same suit. I think this one was brown though. But in the same style. He pretty much wears the same style suit every time. It's really him. And he said, as a matter of fact, this administration will face a pandemic this year. Those are his words, not mine. I encourage you to look it up. But it just could be a coincidence that he was foreshadowing something that could potentially happen because the flu virus was killing so many people. Maybe. It also might just be a coincidence that Fauci was the lead discounter. He was discounting the effects of HCQ early on. Because can you imagine? This is just all coincidence that I've already ran through to you. But this laid plan gets derailed because you have an anti-malaria drug that's 85 years in use and no side effects. And shame on the Johns Hopkins doctor that goes on national TV and talks about heart risks. Shame on all of the doctors that keep saying that there's risks. It's not risky. And I'm not a doctor giving you legal advice. I've seen enough doctors who are saying the exact same thing, looking right into the camera and calling out their own fellow supposed doctors to do no harm. HCQ, this is a coincidental, well-planned event. All of this, just coincidence that all this was happening. But HCQ could have really put a wrench in this whole thing, something that's already readily available. Not to mention, if you've listened to these podcasts, the fact that we're not able to say that anything that's not a drug created by a pharmaceutical company and endorsed by the FDA, the CDC, WHO, unless it goes through that, you, me, nobody can say that some element that's already naturally occurring on this planet can prevent, treat, or cure any disease. It's against the law. They've been lying to us about marijuana and hemp for 70, 80, what, I don't even know. Think about it, it's 80 years. 80 plus years they've been lying to us about the medical benefits of hemp and marijuana. And the list goes on and on and on. Dr. Brownstein, Dr. Ng, Dr. Nussbaum in West Bloomfield, Michigan, they're not crazy. These are competent doctors that are saving lives. But all of this stuff could really just be coincidental. Now, all of these coincidences coming together, though, puts us at a time where Fauci, Birx, and almost all of academia and the experts are calling for mass and even mandatory vaccinations, plus rolling shutdowns over the next 15 to 18 months until we can make sure that this is all taken care of. Complete destruction of the world's economy. And since the United States of America, 240 plus years ago, came into existence with the Declaration of Independence and the blood, sweat, and tears that earned us what became the greatest human written document ever for governance, and that is the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. I do appreciate, shout out to our Attorney General, Mr. Barr, who appropriately has stated the Constitution does not cease to exist at any time, certainly not in a time of crisis or state of emergency or whatever term you want to give it. And I do believe that we're going to have a day of reckoning in the state of Michigan for both our governor and our attorney general and their actions, and I should say their illegal steps that they have taken and unconstitutional steps that they have taken during this time and made this situation even worse. This is my opinion. I think there's a lot of people that would agree with me. But let's get back to Fauci. Now, all of a sudden, we didn't let the crisis go to waste. We're back in the game, almost thrown off by HCQ. This seemed to work too good. It's still working, by the way. I mean, it really is. But if we can have a time to reflect on us, because I often ask, do we admit when we're wrong? I believe we've been wrong by allowing this to happen, by allowing our elected officials to take our liberty and our freedom from us, not through legislation, not just through legislation, not just through executive order, but because we were so conforming to whatever the request was. Dr. Fauci was famous for saying, our most vulnerable among us, we need to protect our most vulnerable among us. He didn't care to protect the most vulnerable among us January and February. It was only in March. And certainly, Governor Cuomo in New York, he didn't care to protect the most vulnerable among them, which technically, if you want to call the people in our nursing homes the most vulnerable among us, they are. They're in a nursing home for a reason. They have underlying comorbidities. Whether it's stage 4 cancer, late term lung disease, late stage heart disease, late stage kidney failure, liver failure. Most of the people in nursing homes are old people that die from the flu a lot, pneumonia every single year. We need to be careful of that. But Cuomo signed that executive order from the governor's desk saying you must readmit these people. Wow. And he answers the question from his brother on CNN, do you think Trump has blood on his hands? Yeah, I think he does. And any of those talking heads that keep asking that. How about you look to Chris Cuomo's brother before you ask if the president has blood on his hands? I think he's done a tremendous job. When I look at all these coincidences, how often can the coincidences just be coincidences before it's an actual plan? I don't really know the answer. I'm trying to connect the dots. And if I could say one thing to President Trump, and I'm sure he's never going to see this, but I voted for President Trump. I believed in President Trump. And I still can believe in him. It's scaring me right now, though. Maybe I was wrong about him. Maybe he's been sucked into what he said he was going to go take care of. I do think that he's been fooled by Fauci. I do think he has been. I think many of us have been. I've said, hey, he seems like a nice guy. But on the HCQ, don't you find it odd that the world's leading epidemiologist, and I want to say this was in the middle of March, maybe the 1st of March. I saw him on television being praised by one of his coworkers out of Stanford. And his coworker actually called him, this is the world's, by far, the world's best epidemiologist, who had a 40 for 40 success rate with hydroxychloroquine and a Z-Pack. This thing's done. We haven't heard from that guy again. That guy is not getting any love by any show anywhere. And he's a college professor whose coworker was in France doing this, and then was at a high 90% range. And I think now it's dropped down because, again, if you're going to say, well, HCQ didn't work on, James Detroit. Well, yeah, because James Detroit was an 88-year-old veteran who had stage 4 lung cancer or late stage lung cancer, and he was a severe COVID patient. We gave it to him. He didn't pull out. Okay, it didn't work. What looks like is mild and moderate. It seems to work extremely well. And many doctors are out there saying it. How can Fauci discount a peer-reviewed test results from the world's leading epidemiologist, unless coincidentally he's part of something else, maybe? But these are real doctors who are considered to be the best in the world. They're giving that information. They're being silenced. Is it just coincidence? But to President Trump, this is how you drain the swamp. James Detroit's just a guy in Michigan that voted for you, that believed in you. Now you're scaring me. You got people up there, they're talking about tracing our population, tracking our population. You're allowing people to say, this sounds like a pretty good idea. Mandatory or mass vaccinations. And guess what if I decide not to get one? Probably I don't get my passport renewed. Probably don't get my driver's license renewed. Probably have a difficulty trying to apply to open another business with the state. One of my beliefs are the government asks for 1 millimeter of our liberty and freedom. And the law that they pass takes 10 miles. I use 10 miles because it's a nautical expression. It's basically eyesight distance. Visibility 10 miles. It means you can see about as far as you can see. This is happening to us right now. President Trump, you drain the swamp by turning off the printing press. You allow states and cities to fail. It's refreshing, at least, that McConnell says, I think the states should be able to fail. How many people in New York stepped up and said, when Detroit went through bankruptcy, when Flint went through bankruptcy, yeah, you know what? We'll step in. We got some extra tax dollars. We'll increase our taxes to help you guys. Nobody came. And you know what? Flint and Detroit were not run well. They deserve to go through bankruptcy. On the smaller local level, it should speak to all of us that less government is better. Because the more money we send them, the more powerful they think they are, and the less right they end up doing consistently for us. We need less governance, not more. And you drain the swamp when you stop Big Pharma. The vaccination schedules, the 200 plus vaccinations that are in the pipeline, warp speed, shut it down. You don't force somebody that we're not even going to be able to work, not even be able to get a job if we don't take your vaccination. And it doesn't even, what I would really like to see is the real numbers on who it kills. We're never going to see it. If you've been listening to these podcasts, There's really valid frontline information on what is the cause of death and the inaccuracy of that during this time. We have made it's still a nasty virus. It's not pleasant to go through it. We have made a medical situation into a global financial crisis that's going to kill, again, according to the United Nations, between 120 and up to 250 million people, the global financial shutdown. Because I'll tell you what, folks, poverty kills. I'm frustrated right now. You can probably tell. I appreciate you. Look, I'm at 25, 26, 27 minutes. I appreciate you hanging in there with me. I like to think I could say this stuff more effectively and efficiently and make them 5-minute podcasts, 10-minute podcasts. I'm working on it. I care about people. I care about my family. I care about my friends. And when I look at these coincidences, I think I care about humanity far more than what these coincidences are suggesting. Come on, President Trump, do the right thing. It's too simple. It's simple. I gave you a couple of points. As far as all of the politicians in the state of Michigan, I'm keeping score. I'm encouraging everybody to keep score. I will not stop until I have a conversation with anybody and everybody regarding keeping score, and we need to take back our country peacefully. A revolution, peaceful revolution through the voting process. It's coming to a town near you this year. Let's take advantage of it. I'm James Detroit, and I'm out.